The storm came in sideways off the interstate around 11, and the Threll hauler pulled into the Wayside's gravel lot like it was running from something. I'd been wiping down the pie case for the third time that night, mostly to have something to do, when the bell over the door went off, and 3 of them came in shaking rain off carapaces that don't shed water so much as redirect it. Threll are not small. Standing, the tallest of the 3 had to duck the door frame, and even folded down into a booth he took up 2 seats. Cheatin, the color of wet asphalt, 4 arms held close to the body out of some manners I never did get explained to me, and eyes like a fly's if a fly's eyes could look exhausted. I've served Threll before. They come through on the freight route twice a month, hauling salvage and survey minerals down from the exchange up north. Usually they order the coffee, black, 6 cups each, and complain about human portion sizes being generous to the point of insult. That night they didn't order anything. The lead one, I never got names. They don't offer them to service staff. It's a status thing. Asked if they could park a container inside, out of the weather. Not in the lot. Inside. I should have asked more questions, but it was pouring, and Biscuit was asleep under the counter, where he'd been asleep since about 8 that evening. One ear twitching at the thunder, and nothing else, and I had exactly 0 customers to disturb, and a 50-mile stretch of dark highway on either side of us, with nothing on it but water. So I said fine, and they wheeled in a crate about the size of a chest freezer, matte gray, humming faintly, dented on one corner in a way that suggested it had been dropped more than once and forgiven for it, and set it against the wall by the pie case. Biscuit didn't move. He's 14, maybe 15. I got him from a shelter, and they weren't sure either, and gray from the muzzle back to somewhere past his shoulders now. His idea of an eventful evening is following a French fry from the counter to the floor. He opened one eye when the crate came through the door, decided it wasn't food, and went back to sleep. The Threll sat. They didn't talk to each other, which for Threll is its own kind of nervous. Normally they mutter constantly in that clicking undertone that the translator callers only half catch. I brought water, which they don't need, but accept anyway, out of the same manners that keep their arms folded, and went back to the register. 40 minutes in, the crate's hum changed pitch. I noticed because Biscuit's ear came up. Not both ears. One. He didn't lift his head, but the lead Threll noticed too, and stood up so fast the booth seat groaned, and went to the crate and put a hand flat on the lid, and said something short and ugly sounding to the other 2, who both stood as well. I asked what was wrong. The lead one, I'll call her that, though I genuinely don't know, told me, in the clipped, over-careful English they use when they're not thinking about their English, that the containment cooling had failed somewhere back on the highway, probably the storm, probably a line freezing and cracking, and that the crate needed to be cold. Very cold, that what was inside was old, older than her species' written history, and that it was not supposed to be warm, ever, under any circumstances, and that the last time something like it had warmed past a certain point, on a moon none of us had heard of, it had cost her people a city. I asked what was inside. She said the translator didn't have a good word for it. The closest was opal, a stone, except it wasn't a stone, not really. It was closer to an egg that had decided, a very long time ago, that hatching wasn't worth the effort anymore, and had gone still instead. Dormant wasn't quite right either. She used a phrase that came through the collar as, waiting on purpose. By then, the lid had a faint light coming through the seam, not bright, just present, the way a nightlight is present in a dark hallway, wrong because it shouldn't be there at all. The 2 other Threll backed toward the door. The lead one didn't, which I respected, though she looked like she wanted to. I told her the diner didn't have industrial refrigeration, just the walk-in, and the walk-in wasn't rated for whatever she needed. She said that wouldn't matter in time. I asked how much time. She said she didn't know, and that not knowing was the worst part of her job, and for a second, she sounded exactly as tired as anybody who's ever worked a bad shift. That's when Biscuit got up. He did it the way he does everything now, slow, joints working out the stiffness one at a time, a full body stretch, a yawn wide enough to show every yellow old tooth he's got left. He padded across the linoleum, past the lead threll's legs without so much as a glance up at her, and lay down directly in front of the crate. Not near it, in front of it, close enough that the light from the seam caught the gray in his muzzle. He put his chin on his paws and looked at the crate the way he looks at the fryer, when he's decided the smell isn't worth the effort of begging. The lead threll went very still. Then she said something to the other two, fast, and they didn't move either, and none of them were looking at Biscuit anymore so much as refusing to look away from him. She asked, quietly, if I could call him off. I said he wasn't doing anything. She said that was exactly the problem. She said her species reads posture the way we read tone of voice, and that on her world, on any world with a food chain worth respecting, an animal that lies down, unhurried, in front of a threat and simply watches it, not backing away, not posturing, not making noise. That animal has already decided it owns the ground. That among her people's oldest and most dangerous predators, the ones at the very top, stillness was the whole message. You didn't fight for territory you already held. You just stayed, calm, until everyone smaller worked out the arithmetic on their own. She said the thing in the crate would read it the same way. All old, patient things did. I didn't have anything smart to say to that, so I said the only thing I had, which was that Biscuit did that with the mailman too, and it had never once meant anything. She didn't answer. She was watching the seam of light. It dimmed while we watched, not all at once. A long, slow fade, like a stove burner cooling, until the hum dropped back to whatever it had been when they carried the crate in, and the only light in that corner of the diner was the buzzing fluorescent over the pie case, same as always. Nobody in that booth breathed for a while. The lead threll checked a reader on her wrist, checked it again, and told the other two something that finally unlocked their shoulders. Then she looked down at Biscuit, who had closed his eyes, apparently satisfied that the crate had lost interest, and said, carefully, like she was trying the words out for the first time, that she would be filing a report that used the word dominant in connection with a domestic animal roughly the size of her own forearm, and that no one at the exchange office was going to believe her. I told her that was fair. Nobody around here believed it about him either. They left within the hour, once the storm broke enough to drive, crate strapped back down, cooling line patched with something that smelled like burnt rubber. The lead one paused at the door and looked back at Biscuit, who by then had resumed his actual full-time job of sleeping under the counter, and said something short in her own language before the translator caught up. Something that came through simply as, respect to the elder, which I'm fairly sure she meant for the dog and not for me. I locked up a little after 2. Biscuit didn't wake for it. I put a bowl of kibble down next to him anyway, out of habit more than hunger, and he opened one eye at the sound of it hitting the bowl, decided it could wait until morning, and went back to sleep. Whatever had almost happened in that diner, whatever had been waiting on purpose in that crate for longer than anyone's history could account for, it had come and gone without so much as a growl, without a single raised voice, without anybody so much as standing up too fast until it was already over. I wiped down the pie case one more time, turned off the lights, and left him where he was. Some things you don't move once they've already won.